Welcome to Have Courage, a summit dedicated to helping you get out of your own way and to help unleash some of that potential that sits within you. So today I'm so grateful to welcome Deborah Hurwitz to the show. So Deborah is a composer, artist, conductor, and also an Amazon #1 best-selling author. So welcome to the show, Deborah.
Thank you so much, Gary. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, look, before we get going, would you mind just taking a minute just to, for those that may not know you yet, just to maybe expand on that introduction and give a bit more detail on yourself?
Absolutely, sure. So so I've been a career artist for a long time. My bread and butter was conducting Broadway shows for many years, and I was with the original companies of Miss Saigon and Jersey Boys and Mamma Mia, and have a bunch of music in TV and movies. It was a huge ambition of mine to be a professional, and I spent a long time making that happen, and I love the world of show business. And I pinged back and forth between New York and Los Angeles for a long time. And what happened was that I got to, so the super quick nutshell is that I got to a point where I realized that the way show business works, which is it's essentially a project-based industry, it's like the original gig economy, was not for me going to be fulfilling or sustainable in the long term. I didn't essentially want to be 50 or 60 years old pounding the pavement, and I'm also a high energy person. I knew I wanted to be making a contribution to the planet well into my 80s, 90s, and aughts. And I was also really fascinated with the online entrepreneurial space. I saw that people were doing some really cool things there. I wanted to explore visibility and reach. And long story short, I really got into this notion of productivity and procrastination, and how more and more people were working by themselves in a room, right? I had been working by myself in a room for 20 years as a composer in a room full of machines, but now people were working by themselves in a room to launch a printing business, or, printing is a totally different industry, but, to launch a coaching business, to launch an IT business, to launch an invention business, or even a physical product business. People were working alone in a room all over the place. Network marketing. I actually have a network marketing business as well, where I've done quite well. And I started to see this sort of catch-22 of like people were getting more and more connected and stimulated all the time by internet stuff, social media platforms, emails, whatever, and yet feeling more and more isolated on some of the most important human levels, where regardless of how technologically advanced we are still, beasties with 200 million-year-old alligator brains, where we need things like food and shelter and belonging and touch. And we're not getting those things. And I was feeling that lack as well. I was feeling starved for content and content, like relationship content, right? As opposed to printed content streaming down the screen, and starved for the collaboration and the corroboration, that feedback of just the biological, another human being looking at me with their eyes. You're here, I'm here. There's like just something that's grounding and stabilizing about that. And I was missing that. And I was also kind of not getting my important stuff done. Like I was going through the motions of a day, putting out the fires, paying the bills, doing the dishes, whatever it was, and feeling all of those feelings, and also not, fulfilling my grand soul's purpose. I would be doing the gigs, and it was always important to me to be a high profile professional and doing cool stuff with lots of credits and making money and all that. But the things like my personal projects, my albums, I took 14 years to do 2 solo records, right? I did them, but boy, did I take too long to do them. And even now I still haven't done my 3rd one, like 8 years after the 2nd one, right? And so I noticed that there was this pattern where I'd procrastinate on the stuff that mattered the most to me, while still making things look good on the outside and showing up great on Facebook and all the rest of that. And that there was like inside this feeling of starvation, even as I made my life look full. And so I started, in combination with my curiosity on the business side about online entrepreneurial projects, I eventually got to the point where I launched a platform, brought a bunch of experts together, did a bunch of interview series, and developed a bunch of projects and programs. And now I'm a productivity coach specializing in perfectionists. I'm still an artist and I make work, but I make work not because of clients and deadlines, but because there's something that lights me up or is calling to me. And I now have the tools and the resources to get that stuff done. So I have an original musical currently in development. I still work with Jersey Boys. I still do professional things as an artist, but really my love and my passion and my fire now is my beautiful tribe of perfectionists that I serve with programs and content online.
Oh, so what's some of the things that you went through yourself, Deborah, that sort of journey from your past world to where you are now as a productivity coach, what sort of elements of courage did you have to step into to be able to make that shift?
Great question. Some of the most important stuff is, especially as a perfectionist, you never want anyone to see anything less than the most finished, perfect, polished version of whatever it is that you're doing. Whether it's me personally, and especially as a woman, right? And as a woman of a certain age, oh my gosh, I couldn't never let anyone see me without makeup, for example, or, I couldn't have anyone hear me play or perform or sing unless it was actually, fully finished and perfect. One of the reasons I've shied away from live performance over the years is I want to get it perfect in the studio when nobody's looking, and then press play and enjoy the glorious result with everyone else. God forbid there should be any mistakes, any problems, any unforeseen disasters, right? And so some of the most difficult things, some of the things that required the most courage were just to put out a version 1.0 of something, to do a Facebook Live without a script, to show up and jam with a band and get on a keyboard without a bunch of charts and rehearsals in advance, to have a phone conversation with someone, right? One of the things that was actually the origin of my platform of productivity and breaking through procrastination was that on the one side, I saw all of these artists with this terrible, crippling fear of the blank page, right? Couldn't get started on writing the thing or making the thing or performing the thing. And on another parallel, because I was in a network marketing business, growing my network marketing business, I saw all these entrepreneurs afraid to make that phone call, afraid to invite someone to an event or ask someone to partner with them in a business venture. And it was the same thing. And it's actually funny that you talk about courage, because one of my mottos with my team when I was coaching a team of about 120 consultants with Arbonne was have 30 seconds of courage. Have 30 seconds of courage, right? 30 seconds of courage, and you can dial that number and you can let it ring and then don't frickin' hang up, right? And the rest, you'll figure it out, right? Have 30 seconds of courage, type a line into the document, open the document, right? And it's just we think we compare other people's outsides to our insides, and we think that what that finished, polished thing that's going on that person's social media platform or stage or book, right, is that's what we need to do in step one of whatever it is that we're doing. No, not at all, right? Go into your living room and practice the opening of your signature talk to nobody, and then have a good laugh over how crappy it is, and then write another one, right? It's have 30 seconds of courage, make one phone call, send one email, put one post out there that's it might piss off some people, but guess what? You want that. You want that polarization. You want to find out who your people are and who they aren't, right? When I send out an email to my tribe, it's courage every single time I hit send, right? I'm sending emails to thousands of people at a time. Every single time, it's courage. Even though I get hundreds of responses back, thank you, this is great, I also get unsubscribes, right? And I know that as long as I'm sending out something that is real for me, that I know would bring value to me if I were in that position, or when I am in that position, right? Because I'm in there with my tribe being a recovering perfectionist, right? That if somebody unsubscribes because that wasn't their jam, I bless them. Please go find your people. Don't let my crap clutter up your inbox, because I'm not your people, right? If that didn't sing for you, literally or figuratively, God bless. Go find your people. My people will come find me. Right? But of course, you must have courage to do those things, because it's not it's fun to have people go, bye, right? Nobody is looking for that or wanting that. It is, though, part of the process. Experimentation is part of the process. Getting it wrong, having something not work, having something blow up, or having something not go quite the way you planned is all part of the process of becoming who you're here to become, whatever that looks like. And if you're not screwing up, you're not working.
I love that so much. I just love this metaphor that you've got there for basically for life in general, whether it's your productivity work or whether it's just actually that I want to apologize, but I'm scared to, or I don't want to be seen to be the weak person. It really is just that 30 seconds of everything, isn't it? For me, courage is about going first, Deborah. Does that resonate with you, or do you challenge that just out of
Oh, no, I love that. Having courage is going first. That is beautiful, especially when you pair it with the idea of an apology. You and I've talked about some of the masculine and feminine dynamics around this, and I love how you're bringing sort of forward how to soften the masculine piece of it, right? And I speak most often to women, but for women and men, there's this kind of we live in the masculine dominant culture, and then for women to navigate their way through that is a whole different set of stuff. But what you're talking about, which I find really interesting, and because I have such a hyper-developed masculine side, I can really relate to this. I, for example, am not usually the first one to apologize with my husband. Made myself laugh, and I'm still getting over that cough. But to go first, sometimes people might interpret going first as being sort of like aggressive or proactive or me, self-serving, right? And what you're talking about is actually to go first in being vulnerable, to go first in apologizing, to go first in saying, I'm taking responsibility. Here's my part in whatever might have gone wrong, not just whatever went right. And I think that's actually really beautiful. I think that's a beautiful demonstration of courage. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it's interesting. No, thanks for feeding back on that. Because I think something else that's interesting for me as well that shows up in this conversation, Deborah, is around as well, going first, but also forgiveness. Because I, for many years, for those that will have seeing us speak now, will have seen my introduction to this summit. And it took me 30 years to forgive myself for being bullied. And it wasn't me that did it, but the stuff we tell ourselves about stuff that happens to us becomes a narrative at times. Is that something that shows up for some of your clients in the work you do?
Oh, that's something that shows up in every human, right? Like, I mean, I've been even before I got into any sort of coaching or transformation as a career, I was a self-help junkie. I was a self-improvement junkie. Since I was 12 years old, I was doing trainings and seminars. So, and as an artist, as a professional artist, you constantly need to, feed that mindset piece of yourself, else, you wither and die. I mean, there's just no other way to do it. So I've been doing this kind of work for a long time. And one of the very earliest pieces of clarity that I had as young as my teenage years was that we make most of our big decisions by the time we're like 6 years old about how life is and how the world works. And we make another set of big decisions around 11, 12, 13. And then we make kind of an icing on the cake set of decisions in our early adulthood or whenever it is that we start to kind of live on our own and adult ourselves. And we make these big decisions from places of peak emotional experiences that engage the alligator brain, the 200 million year old don't change, don't die piece of ourselves, that this is how we're going to stay safe. This is how we're going to survive. And when we get into the patterns that we see again and again and again, where people are like, oh, I self-sabotage, or this thing keeps happening, or I have these relationships with totally different people, and yet the same thing keeps happening. I'm like, and what is the common thread in all of your relationships, right? New relationships are so great. And then you show up, oh no, and then the same thing happens again, right? And I'm not a relationship coach, so let me just say that. But in work situations, in career situations, in anything where you're looking to go from where you are to where you want to be and close that gap, you're looking at crossing a threshold of safety. You're looking at engaging all of those places, all of those patterns that have kept you breathing. And here's what you want to know. Nobody self-sabotages. Every single part of you is working on your behalf. It just might have an outdated assignment as to how that's going. But every single part of you is doing a marvelous job of keeping you alive. You are witness that you are here. If you're listening or watching, congratulations. All your parts did a great job of getting you here. Your heart's still beating. You're still breathing. You did it. Now, if what you want to be is living in a different way, where it's not just the heart beating and the lungs expanding and contracting, but you also want to be doing something on the planet that you're not currently doing, now you got to take those parts that are keeping you safe and making sure that you keep breathing no matter what, and update their assignments a little bit and calm them down and say, yeah, we're going to do something a little different here, but don't worry, I got you. And there's no saber-toothed tiger chasing you right now. And mommy and daddy are not actually going to run away and leave you to starve to death, right? Like there are all sorts of ways that you just need to sort of console and witness and embrace those younger, scared parts of yourself that are like, but if you do that, we might die. And if you do this, we'll definitely stay safe, even though you'll be really unhappy and pissed off. But no, it's okay. We don't want to be unhappy and pissed off. We do want to keep breathing, and we're going to do something that is going to engage a little bit of risk. It's going to feel unfamiliar, but it's going to get us where we actually want to go. Like we're actually going to make some money now, or we're actually going to touch some lives now, or we're actually going to lose the weight and keep it off now, right? Like we're going to let go of those protections, but you can't let go of the protections if you're telling the protections that they're wrong and bad, because they know they're not. They know that they're keeping you safe. But there's a way that you can stay safe and survive whatever's coming without continuing to do the same thing that you did before. So yes, the answer to your question is yes, it comes up every single time.
That's fascinating. What sort of, I don't want to say tips or tricks, but what sort of support do people generally do you find is the most helpful? So if someone's watching us now, Deborah, saying, I
Yeah.
love saying it's helpful, but like what sort of one or two things could
But
you?
now what? No, I know. I don't mind tips and tricks. We can't solve everything in 20 minutes, but I'm a big fan of tips and tricks. One of the ways that I came into this industry was in a hugely skeptical space of like, people talked all this woo-woo and jargon and limiting beliefs and law of attraction. And I'm not going to curse, I curse like a sailor, but I could curse a blue streak on that stuff, right? Like, okay, that's all well and good, but now as a perfectionist, this is just another opportunity for me to beat myself up and think I'm doing it wrong because I'm doing my 25 affirmations a day and I still don't have any of the stuff I want. It's still all going haywire. What the hell? Right? And so I'm a big fan of what is the concrete action step that I can take right now to actually move the needle, because all of this, let's change that pattern that isn't working for me. I don't know what that means, right? So a couple of answers on that. First of all, and it's simple, like the stuff that actually moves the needle, you're going to get to the big places, but the thing you're doing right now is always a simple first step. And so it can be as simple as the thing that you've been putting off for 3 years because it's such a big ass project, like the new website or writing your book, right? Or launching your podcast or whatever it is. Work on it for 20 minutes today. Or if it's late at night for you, tomorrow. Work on it for 20 minutes. Now, you're going to feel silly. You're going to have a really good story as to why that's a dumbass thing to do. And it's not going to make any difference. And I've put it off for this long. And now, because I've put it off for this long, because of course I have 20 minutes. I could have done 20 minutes 100 times by now, but I didn't, because what I really need is 3 hours. And I need to read these 19 articles and take those 4 courses and consult with those 9 experts before I write a word. No, you need to put yourself into the space where this is what you're focusing on for 20 minutes. And you're basically signaling to the universe, to the muse, to your own brain cells, your own right brain, your own body, I'm here, I'm showing up, I'm committed. And there's that beautiful Goethe quote about boldness has genius, power, and magic to it. Once you commit, providence moves too. All sorts of unforeseen circumstances, people, resources show up in ways you could not have predicted or imagined. The God I don't believe in does really good work when I start to actually show up, even though I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, how I'm going to get where I want to go, or whether I'm going to be any good. But I show up because I'm committed to moving forward. So it's a baby step. So 20 minutes, brainstorm on your ideas. This beautiful, gorgeous, global, impact-driven, purpose-driven image that you have of how it's all going to be when you do everything right. Write for 20 minutes on what that looks like. Then start breaking down what's one thing that I could do today. And don't keep researching and consuming. Actually generate something. Actually write something down. Produce something. Go live on Facebook for 10 seconds and say, I'm going live on Facebook for 10 seconds because I want to improve my visibility. Okay, bye. Done.
Great idea.
Honestly, it's that simple, right? I have a client, God bless her. I hope she's watching this, right? It's like, she knows she needs to just make those damn videos, right? Because she wants to build a YouTube channel. But it, again and again, it's like, oh, my lighting isn't right yet. I'm having a bad hair day, right? We have all the good reasons for staying safe. But work for 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Everything counts. You start with the small steps. And 2 pieces of required reading, since I said don't consume, but if you haven't consumed anything on this stuff, 2 pieces of required reading that I love that speak to this idea of consistent daily actions building up to big things. One is Jeff Olson's The Slight Edge. It's a quick and easy read. I mean, even just the first few chapters will give you the gist, but it's really great. And then my personal required reading for any creative project, meaning anyone's life, because your life is a creative project, it's Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art, which is powerful direction on resistance, being that beastie that shows up to get in the way of anything that we want to do. So anything we want to do that would meaningfully change our lives or change our days or change anything, right? It's not something that we want to create, something that we endeavor, something that is connected to our soul and our desire. Anything around that will generate resistance. And the War of Art is a great way to understand, respect, and conquer resistance.
That's awesome. I'm looking behind me. You can't quite see my bookshelf. There's about 50 books on there, which I need to get to. But these
Yeah.
two sound like they need to go to the top of the list. So thank you so
Oh, yeah.
much for that. That is
Absolutely.
very cool. I've got one more question before we start to wrap up, Deborah, if I may.
Yep.
In what you're talking about as well, there's something for me and something I've learned the last 6 months around to access some of that innovation, that creativity. Sometimes we just need to stop as well. In these hyper busy worlds, we're reacting, we're busy. Getting present and just stopping sometimes opens up that consciousness to allow us to be creative. That's what I found. Is that something that resonates with you? Is that something you challenge? Or
100%. Oh, you're throwing me easy ones, baby.
Okay.
Like, where are the curveballs? No, it's okay. Yes, absolutely. That's actually something that especially in terms of perfectionists, this is something that I coach on all the time, and something that I coach myself on. You know what? I'll change what I just said. This actually isn't an easy one because it is actually my personal growth edge. Right. So one of the things I recommend in terms of having courage and unleashing the inner you, the potential, is like, I do have the courage to step forward and say, I do this. Right. Like, I'm not one of those entrepreneurs that says, oh, here's my story and I had, this greatness and then it all fell. And then I learned these important secrets and now everything is amazing all the time and go buy this to get the secrets. Right. Like, no. I still procrastinate. I still, leave things to the last minute every once in a while. And one of my biggest bugaboos is I'm a recovering perfectionist, so I still have the ism, and one of my perfectionisms is workaholism, and I have a really hard time turning it off. This has always been true because that's the flip side of doing what you love for a living, right? Is that there's this sort of like gunging together, and that's not a word, of the business and the service. And so it's like, there's always something that I could be doing in my business. There's always something I could be doing to serve my clients. There's always some way that I could be doing better, finishing more, working harder kind of thing. And so the stopping is actually something that is a deep need of mine that I turn away from again and again. So I want you to know, if you're listening, I can relate to that, but I do find the moments. I do find the moments. And I'm coming out of an illness right now. Like, honestly, sometimes I need to make myself sick in order to do it. Now, I could say, I think I caught it from this person on this day or whatever, but the bottom line is that we're subjected to billions of germs all the time. Why do you get sick this time and not that time, right? So sometimes my body's like, that's it, we're done for the weekend, right? And I just need to be in bed feeling like hell in order for that to happen. But it's a reminder to me. And happily, that only happens every few years when my body is like, you're really not listening, are you? And then I go, yep, sorry, okay, gotcha. And now I will actually carve out the time so that I can feel well and take the downtime and stop. But yes, stopping is really important. And here's another one. This is a parallel to what we just said. You don't have to stop, like, go on a tropical vacation for a week, right? So many times, especially the perfectionists and the workaholics, were like, I can't stop because you could stop right now for 30 seconds. You could stop for 2 minutes and do one of my favorite presencing exercises that Marcy Schleimoff gave me, Happiness for No Reason. Happy for No Reason is another book to put on your shelf. Hand on heart, deep breath, and just say love, ease, compassion for 2 minutes with your eyes closed, just slowly, just mantra-like, and see what you feel on the other side of that. I've got 4 different meditation apps that I love. 1 minute of meditation counts. You're not going to get that far. I'm not going to promise, Buddhist enlightenment in 60 seconds, but it's a form of stopping. It's a form of slowing down. When you're talking about with stopping, it's really about getting present. Yeah. Stopping, just stop the worrying of the mind, and get behind, as one of my gurus says, behind the waterfall of the thoughts. So you can just get behind the waterfall and actually watch your brain go, it's never stopping. But you can get behind it to a place that's quieter and calmer.
That's so beautiful. What a great way to wrap up as well. I always think, for me, it's always that remembrance service that we have when you're silent for 2 minutes. It feels like an hour. And it's just one of those examples. It's like, if we took 2 minutes like that every hour during the day, we get so much more done, I think.
That's a great idea. I'm going to do that myself.
It's my new tip from tomorrow. So how can people reach out to you, Deborah, if they want to follow up and have some further conversations with you?
I love it. Well, I think we have a free gift that we're offering at freedomforperfectionists.com. And that's my 5 keys to maximum results with minimum stress video series. It's a quick little 3-part video series that just has some really great exercises and questions for you to ask yourself in the moment, ways that you can just drop some of that stress, some of that go, some of that fear and anxiety, and actually sail through much more efficiently from mission to mission accomplished. And yeah, reach out to me that way. Join my tribe. I do lots of free content. Grab that free video series. And there'll be also other ways that we can get acquainted once you're in the tribe. So jump to freedomforperfectionists.com and have at it.
Deborah, you've been an absolute joy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Gary.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.